Tonight, the Conservatives will lose another caucus member. An MP of 10 years says he'll resign.
There's no way to shine this apple. It's been a bad week.
After Tuesday's floor crossing, is this just a second blip or the start of a drip, drip, drip? Rosemary and At Issue are here to break it all down. A final loss in court for defenders of a herd of ostriches now set to be culled.
Stop killing them!
On a crowded global stage, the annual climate summit struggles for attention.
The hard truth is that we have failed to ensure we remain below 1.5 degrees.
COP30 leaders convene, minus some key leaders.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. This week has suddenly delivered a second political casualty for the Conservative Party of Canada. First, the defection of one MP to the Liberals. Then, just this evening, the announced resignation of another. Matt Jeneroux, who for 10 years has represented the Alberta riding of Edmonton Riverbed, was cryptic in a letter, saying only that it wasn't an easy decision. But it comes as Conservatives worry they could lose yet more MPs to the Liberals after Chris D'Entremont's Tuesday floor crossing. The Conservative leader says Jeneroux will stay on until next spring, but as Kate McKenna explains, the departure raises more questions about Pierre Poilievre's leadership.
Conservative MP Matt Jeneroux is calling it quits after being re-elected just 6 months ago.
Thank you, everybody.
It's another blow to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. In a week, 2 MPs have said they're leaving his caucus. Jeneroux's announcement left MPs shocked.
He served Edmonton and Alberta well, and he was a valued member of our team, and he'll be missed.
I just wish him all the best, him and his family. He's a good man.
Matt Jeneroux is a good person, good man, and a good MP. I thank him for his public service.
The Edmonton MP says he told the party he was resigning his seat, writing in a statement, "It was not an easy decision, but it is, I believe, the right one. And for now, my focus must turn entirely to my family and the responsibilities that come with that."
This is going to be a question for the Conservative membership in terms of Mr. Poilievre's leadership. This has not been a good week. There's no way to shine this apple. It's been a bad week, to be sure.
Sources say Jeneroux was under pressure by Conservatives who feared he was going to cross the floor after MP Chris D'Entremont moved to the Liberals earlier this week, saying part of his motivation was unhappiness with Poilievre's leadership. Though in a news statement issued Thursday night, Jeneroux said, "I want to be clear that there was no coercion involved in my decision to resign."
I think there's no way that this is just a coincidence. It was literally a day after another colleague did it. This, again, comes back to the fact that the Conservative Party of Canada no longer has room within its party for progressive views.
I think he was dealing with some criticism within his own party, and that was difficult for him.
Pierre Poilievre responded on social media, wishing him and his family all the best and saying Jeneroux will step down next spring.
Jeneroux himself hasn't said when he plans to step down, just that he hopes to address the House of Commons one final time.
And Kate, when he does go, his seat goes up for a by-election. No guarantee, I suppose, the Conservatives hold it. If it flips to the Liberals, they're just one seat away from a majority.
And Adrian, there could still be more to come. Sources tell us once news of D'Entremont's floor crossing broke, Conservatives moved quickly to try to stop any more departures, but they haven't been entirely successful. So are others going to end up leaving too? If Conservatives perceive that it was Pierre Poilievre's leadership that handed the Liberals a majority when the Canadian public did not, that does not bode well for his political future.
All right, Kate McKenna in Ottawa. And you'll hear more in just a bit. Rosie will be here with At Issue coming up in about 20 minutes. The RCMP have taped off the entrance to a BC ostrich farm as a tense dispute comes to an end. Canada's top court has refused to hear an appeal of a federal agency's decision to euthanize hundreds of birds. Brady Strachan explains what happens next.
We just got word, I just got the phone call now. They ruled against us.
Surrounded by supporters, BC ostrich farmer Dave Belinsky breaks the news. The Supreme Court of Canada will not hear his case.
In my opinion, there's no justice left.
The ruling clears the way for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to resume its plan to cull the flock of 300 ostriches. To the farmers, it's a major blow in their 10-month fight to save the animals, some of them decades old.
My mom is in the house right now. If I lose my mom because of this, she's gonna lose everything she's ever loved for 35 years.
The CFIA says culling the ostriches is the only way forward after an avian flu outbreak late last year. 69 birds died, hundreds more survived. The farmers say those surviving ostriches carry vital antibodies that should be studied, not stamped out.
It's totally ridiculous. They won't listen to the science.
But the CFIA disagrees, and some in the scientific community warn the virus still poses a real danger.
I'm incredibly worried about it. It is, to me, the currently the biggest pandemic risk that we are facing as the human race.
The controversy has reached Parliament Hill. In Ottawa Thursday, reaction to the decision is divided.
This is a decision that is following the science and evidence.
I think it goes to underscore the structural need for change within the CFIA.
As agents begin to corral the birds, desperate pleas echo across the farm.
You are defending blood on hands!
The CFIA says the cull will now proceed. They've prepared these pens of straw bales to carry it out.
Stop! Stop killing them!
Adrian, while it will move ahead, the CFIA hasn't said how it will conduct this operation or given any other details about the cull.
And so, Brady, what happens for the owners and all of their supporters?
Well, the owners say that they will make it their mission to change policy at the CFIA if their flock is killed so that other farms don't suffer this fate. They also said they're checking in with their lawyers to see if there is any legal recourse that they have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Brady. That's Brady Strachan in Edgewood, BC tonight. The man accused in a mass stabbing has pleaded guilty to murdering an Ottawa mother and her 4 children. Danushka Wickramasinghe, the husband and father, was attacked separately and managed to overpower the culprit.
To think about what happened to that family and the grief that this gentleman is continuing to carry.
A close friend of the family was also killed back in January of 2024 in what the mayor has called one of the most shocking acts of violence the capital has ever seen. Upon sentencing, Fabria de Souza, now 20, faces no chance of parole for 25 years. An Ontario grade 8 teacher has pleaded guilty to sex crimes, including luring and making child pornography. In a Peterborough, Ontario court, Kellyanne Jennings responded guilty to 4 charges related to sending nude pictures of herself to 3 former students and asking for nudes in return over Snapchat in 2023. Under a publication ban, CBC News can't reveal the names of the victims or any identifying details, such as the school where Jennings taught. Well, Canada's largest cancer centre is hoping a new study involving 100,000 patients will provide some useful data with respect to several diseases. Jennifer Yu now with a look at the science that could save lives.
Our bodies contain thousands of genes. Some mutations put us at higher risk of cancers and heart disease, but many of us don't know it.
I had no clue. There was no strong, immediate history of cancer in my family.
Like Leslie Bourne, who didn't know a genetic mutation in the BRCA2 gene put her at higher risk of ovarian cancer until after she was diagnosed.
I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but that is the one piece of information or thing I wish I had known.
Now, researchers are amping up genomic testing in Ontario, screening 100,000 people over the next 5 years. They'll be testing for 3 genetic conditions: mutations in the BRCA gene associated with breast and ovarian cancer, Lynch syndrome associated with colorectal cancer, and familial hypercholesterolemia, which often has no symptoms until a heart attack or stroke. The goal is to expand testing to broader populations, starting with cancer patients at the Princess Margaret Cancer Centre.
And knowing their genetic makeup helps them to see if we have to be concerned of any other cancer, but also importantly identifies their family members that would be at risk.
Data from the study could help researchers see if the benefits of the genomic testing outweigh the costs.
The studies that need to be shown that it's proven to benefit as many people as possible.
Our traditional methods of referral of high-risk families are definitely missing the majority of at-risk individuals.
More genetic tests would help, no question, says this genetic counselor. But that takes a lot of people, and expanding screening will require more investment.
Genetics is a freckle in the healthcare system.
But the knowledge can also be life-changing for patients.
I'm not sitting in the dark anymore.
Like for Leslie Bourne, she's now getting screened more often and living cancer-free. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Starting Friday, hundreds of flights will be canceled at some of the busiest airports in the U.S., all because of the weeks-long government shutdown. Chris Reyes looks at the travel chaos that just may snowball.
For more than a month, most U.S. federal employees have been without pay as Republicans and Democrats battle it out on funding the government. On that payroll, air traffic controllers who are stretched to the limit.
The stresses, the pressure, the fatigue is setting in. Air traffic controllers are texting, I don't even have enough money to put gas in my car to come to work.
Now the Federal Aviation Administration is ordering system-wide cuts to flight capacity.
When we see pressures building in these 40 markets, we just can't ignore it.
That means canceled flights at 40 of the busiest airports in the U.S., including Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles.
We're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today.
The FAA directs more than 44,000 flights per day. Starting Friday, that number will be reduced by 4%, and then up to 10% by next week, affecting between 1,800 to 4,500 flights daily. International flights exempt. Cuts will be limited to the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
I just feel like it's very, very overwhelming. It's not fair for all the people working. It's just like, it's very, very stressful. I can't imagine what they're going through.
I have kids traveling from New York, D.C., and Boston for Thanksgiving. I'm just hoping for safety, first of all, and timeliness.
The other concern that other parts of air travel will be affected the longer the shutdown lasts.
Once they start canceling flights, closing down airspaces, it's going to further hinder the workload on pilots and crew to make sure that we can get from point A to point B safely.
Joining us this morning.
Anxiety rising as the wrangling continues in Washington.
It is officially and shamefully the longest shutdown in U.S. history.
The Republican leader giving no indication a deal is in sight. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Swedish authorities have opened an aviation sabotage investigation after a drone sighting yet again paralyzed air traffic. At least one drone was spotted near Sweden's second largest airport. More than a dozen flights were canceled or rerouted before operations resumed tonight. Drone sightings temporarily shut down airports in Belgium on Tuesday, and over recent months they have disrupted air traffic across Europe. Some officials blame Russia, an accusation Moscow has denied. Well, a scathing new report is slamming the Louvre for neglecting security well before last month's infamous jewel heist. According to France's Court of Auditors, the museum prioritized spending on art and exhibitions over security and maintenance, despite years of warnings about its outdated systems. Well, there are some dire warnings tonight as the UN's latest climate conference, COP30, gears up in Brazil. Susan Ormiston, our international climate correspondent, shows us why the fight to cut carbon emissions is being judged a failure.
A bold plan by Brazil, inviting the UN climate conference to Belém, barely equipped to host tens of thousands of guests.
For the first time in history, a climate COP will take place in the heart of the Amazon.
Brazil's president launched an international fund to help countries slow deforestation and to protect tropical rainforests like the Amazon, but hasn't yet raised the $25 billion to kick it off. 10 years on from the Paris pledge to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, a sobering message.
President Lula, you have called this the COP of truth. I could not agree more. And the hard truth is that we have failed to ensure we remain below 1.5 degrees.
The world is still warming, global emissions still rising, supercharging storms like those lashing the Philippines and Vietnam this week. But there is significant progress in that decade, says Guterres.
Clean energy is winning in price, performance, and potential. What is still missing is political courage.
COP30 convenes with a climate skeptic in the White House, and for the first time, no high-level U.S. delegation. Prime Minister Carney, formerly the UN's climate finance envoy, isn't here. His office says because of the budget vote.
Our attention is being drawn to other threats and crises that can seem more pressing.
These talks will need to break through the tariff wars and divisive politics. Brazil's president says the era of fine speeches and good intentions is over. People are demanding action. Canada's delegation arrives next week, including both the current environment minister and the former one. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Belém, Brazil.
A legal battle is heating up over Quebec's contentious new doctors' bill. Physicians say it unfairly forces them to fix a system weakened by years of provincial neglect. Alison Northcott unpacks the law and the frustration it's fueling.
My main concerns and my main issues.
This doctor has been speaking out about a lack of resources in his region for years and says Quebec's new law has further eroded his trust in the government.
Bill 2 is a bit of a smokescreen in terms of the failings of the government are trying to be passed on to the shoulders of the physicians.
That's why he's quit his job as head of the Health Region's Department of Anesthesiology. It's the kind of departure Quebec's doctors' federations have been warning about since the government fast-tracked its law through the legislature, changing the way doctors are paid. It ties part of their compensation to performance targets like emergency room wait times. And if doctors use certain pressure tactics to protest the changes, they could be fined.
Distress, fear of talking, discouragement.
Quebec's medical specialists have called the law draconian and are challenging it in court. Earlier this week, the Quebec government said it would suspend parts of the law in an attempt to calm the waters.
We're doing that for the Quebecers and also for the doctors. We need them. We need them to work in an environment that is positive and peaceful.
But so far, that hasn't brought the doctors back to the table.
If nothing is done, me and my two young children, 7 and 5 years old, we're going to lose our doctor.
This patient says the damage is already done. Her doctor just announced she's leaving her family medicine clinic because of the new law.
We will have to get back on the waiting list to hopefully have a doctor. And until then, if we do not, every small sickness will have to go to the emergency.
Call 1-800-DOUG-FORD, all the docs, and come by, call me on my cell phone.
Other provinces have been looking to recruit Quebec doctors looking to leave.
With the recent changes in Quebec, people had already been reaching out to us looking for opportunities, and so we were just looking to be able to respond to those requests.
The Quebec government says it hopes to resume discussions with the doctors' federations and to find a way forward. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Democratic Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi says she will not run again and will leave when her term ends in early 2027.
Thank you, San Francisco, for trusting me to be your voice in Congress.
Pelosi, who's 85, made the announcement in a video addressed to her constituents. She was first elected in 1987 and pretty quickly gained influence. In 2007, she became the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House. Well, if you are buying a new car, take note. A marketplace investigation has found the price that is advertised may not be the price that you pay.
I specifically said to him, this is optional. And he says, no, it's done at the factory.
The push to enhance your rights when a purchase goes wrong. After falling 2 out short, the Jays are already eyeing a spot in the next World Series.
You have to constantly be thinking about getting better.
And Heather Hiscox signs off from Morning Live.
Earning and keeping your trust has been the greatest achievement of my career.
We're back in 2.
With over 75% voting in favor, approved.
Well, with that shareholder vote, Tesla has paved the way for Elon Musk to be the world's first trillionaire. To do that, the world's richest man will need to meet some lofty targets, including Tesla selling 12 million vehicles a year. Now, if you're shopping for a new car, you might think the price you see is the price you pay, but a new marketplace hidden camera investigation reveals that's not always the case. Chelsea Agro shows us the calls for more consumer protections.
Deborah Dunn is enjoying her new ride, but she thinks the dealership who sold it to her took her for one.
Exterior and interior fob protection. And I specifically said to him, this is optional. And he says, no, it's done at the factory.
Feeling pressured, Dunn bought her car the same day and says she paid about $2,000 for extras she didn't want or need. When Marketplace did a spot check of Toronto area car dealerships, 6 out of the 15 dealerships we visited charged us more than the advertised price, even though all-in pricing laws have been on the books in Ontario for 15 years. It's why consumer advocates would like to see legislation go even further and allow car buyers to back away from a deal they don't like.
I believe that Canadian consumers should have a cooling off period. If you buy a condo or you buy a fitness membership, you have a cooling off period.
In some parts of Canada, a cooling off period already exists. Quebec and BC have one for some car purchases. Ontario's vehicle sales regulator wanted one too.
We are a consumer protection organization, so from our seat, it was something that was worthy of consideration. Unfortunately, the government made the decision not to proceed with it.
But with the Ontario government now back in session, we asked the Premier if it's time to put a cooling off period back on the table for Ontarians.
I'll speak to the minister, but I'll tell you, be cautious. Do not pay more than what they've advertised. Simple as that.
Dunn says she would have backed out of her deal if she could have, something she hopes will be an option for all Canadian car buyers going forward. Chelsea Agro, CBC News, Toronto.
To see the full Marketplace investigation, watch Deception at the Dealership tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on CBC TV and CBC Gem and 8:30 in Newfoundland. Well, Blue Jays management isn't ruling out some big moves in an effort to bring home a championship.
Possibility for multiple franchise players in a market of this size certainly exists.
Why some say top talent could be drawn to Toronto next. After the break, Rosie's here with that issue.
Hey, Adrian, tonight we're going to talk about Pierre Poilievre's leadership as one MP crosses the floor and another says he will resign.
I wasn't feeling that I was aligned with the ideals of what the leader of the opposition had been talking about.
So how challenging are these losses for the Conservative leader? What does it mean for the Liberals' budget? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more.
In other words, please be true.
Well, Prince Harry made a pretty stylish entrance tonight at a gala dinner organized by a veterans group. Earlier, he met some of Canada's oldest vets at a special center at Sunnybrook Hospital. That's where he joked that he had been, quote, under duress when he wore a Dodgers cap during a World Series game in LA last week. Here in Toronto, he accepted a Blue Jays cap. Well, that Blue Jays team definitely captured the hearts and attention of millions of Canadians. Now its management needs to look ahead to next season. Jamie Strachan shows us how the club is eager to build off their World Series run.
And the pitch. The painful final moments of the 2025 season still raw for Blue Jays management.
I hadn't looked at the field since Saturday.
But team president Mark Shapiro keenly aware of the immense impact this team had on a city and a country.
They saw the things that inspired us, the things that lift us, the reasons to believe, the reasons to feel belonging and a part of something.
Those who cover this team say this run has changed how the baseball world views this franchise.
That 7-game World Series was one giant October infomercial for this team because people around baseball took notice.
And the Blue Jay fans making a ton of noise, and now Guerrero! For Shapiro and general manager Ross Atkins, this season was vindication after 9 mostly listless years, finally able to cultivate a rare professional team culture embodying selflessness, unity, and family. From brotherhood to sisterhood, the wives and girlfriends of the players have shared outpourings of gratitude for Canada's team and newfound friendships. With the memories of this season now in the rearview mirror, the biggest question, as it always is in sports, what's next? And will the Blue Jays be able to recapture the magic that captivated baseball fans across the country?
You have to constantly be thinking about getting better.
Already, some pieces are falling into place. Pitcher Shane Bieber will be back for another year, and a contract extension beyond next season, likely for manager John Schneider.
Schneid's has been unbelievable. He is, a clear leader.
The biggest piece, Bo Bichette. And whether the All-Star free agent will stay in Toronto. Never say never.
The possibility for multiple franchise players in a market of this size certainly exists.
Now, the work ahead of next season begins. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, let's break down the news shaping our world. Tonight, Rosie's here with that issue.
At issue tonight, Pierre Poilievre's leadership. A Conservative MP from Alberta says he will resign his seat, and another crosses the floor to join the government.
I wasn't feeling that I was aligned with the ideals of what the leader of the opposition had been talking about.
What he says was part of the reasoning.
It's time to actually try to lead a country, to try to make it better, and not try to knock it down.
So what does this latest resignation mean for Pierre Poilievre's leadership? Does the leader still have a handle on his own caucus? I'm Rosemary Barton here to break it down tonight. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. So we have the floor crossing by Chris d'Entremont that happened on Tuesday when we last spoke, joining the government. And now Matt Jeneroux is resigning his seat entirely, saying that this wasn't an easy decision, but it is the right one. The effect is he's not leaving caucus, but he's leaving his seat. The effect is that Pierre Poilievre now has two people who have left, regardless of the timing. Chantal, what do you make of it?
Well, that this is not the week that Pierre Poilievre wanted to have, that instead of being on the attack on the budget, he is in such crisis mode that he actually forgot to add the usual official opposition motion to strike down the budget, which tells you a lot about what's happening inside, which is chaos. What I'm told is it's very toxic in there. Yesterday, the name of this MP who just resigned was going around as someone who was thinking of crossing the floor. There is plenty of indications that he was under intense pressure to not cross the floor. This is the answer. If you're a leader of the official opposition on budget week in a minority government and you lose two MPs one way or the other, it doesn't bode well for your leadership.
Yeah, Althea, what are you hearing? Because it definitely raises questions about what the leader is doing with caucus, how involved he is in keeping people happy and on side.
Well, since the rumors first started of potential floor crossers, he has been working the phones. But I would say he does not have good and warm relations. He has not fostered collegial relations with his caucus in the same way that some people speak about Brian Mulroney, for example. And so when there is a crisis, there's no goodwill built in there. And that has been a problem that we have seen all week. I don't believe that Chris d'Entremont wanted to cross the floor in the way that happened on Tuesday. I think he was forced to do so because of a Politico story that emerged earlier than he had expected. And from what I understand from several sources, Mr. Jeneroux was planning on crossing to the Liberals. And multiple sources, conservative sources, tell me that he was threatened by his own whip. And that, I haven't spoken to him directly, so I won't go into the details, but I believe that instead of crossing the floor, he just basically said, fine, if this is the way you want to deal with it, then I will resign my seat. Some conservatives believe that the Liberals will win that by-election whenever it is called. It certainly is a good week for Mark Carney. To Chantal's point, what does it mean? I mean, Mr. d'Entremont left and said, basically, it's because of Pierre Poilievre's toxic leadership, and I don't see the values that I believe in reflected in at least the leadership's tone in the party. Mr. Jeneroux, aside from saying that he wants to spend more time with his family, doesn't really tell us why he is leaving. So we don't know yet why he is leaving. I'm sure at some point he will tell us. But what does it mean for Pierre Poilievre's leadership review in January? What does it mean for the rest of the caucus? If the stories emerging about the pressure that you're under by the leadership team, how does that build and foster a team approach? You now have a very aggressive tone. You're leading through fear. And it's hard to lead through fear when you're, frankly, the leader of the official opposition, you know? There aren't that many carrots, but how do you sustain this? And there's a lot of unhappy people, and I've got to say, dispirited-looking faces in that caucus.
Andrew?
I'll leave my colleagues to handle the inside dope. I'll just say I'm more struck by the public reactions, which I think are symptomatic of what's going wrong here. The reaction to Chris D'Entremont moving over was, who needs him? He's a red Tory. We don't need that kind in our party. That is all too symptomatic of the attitudes of the people around Pierre Poilievre, that there's a very narrow construction of what's an acceptable conservative. I'm somebody who's always thought the Conservatives need to establish more distance between themselves and the Liberals and take a more concrete and substantively conservative stance. But I also think any party that has any chance of winning has to be a big tent. And if you're focused on who you can exclude from the tent rather than who you can bring into it, you're going to lead yourself to a lot of trouble. Look at the frosty relations he has with the governments of conservative governments in Ontario and Nova Scotia, because there's personalities involved as well and ambitions, but also ideological differences. Look at some of the bizarre candidate choices where they froze out Mike de Jong in BC from running. They need to have a much more broad outlook. But I think also the thing, when you look at Pierre Poilievre's comportment, he seems to be reacting as if he was still 25 points ahead in the polls, and as if the Reform Act provisions had not been adopted by his caucus, where he can be removed if they so choose. So, we can talk about the January review of the party at large, but is he going to make it to the January review?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is they want to be talking about the budget, and they say to media, "Why aren't you talking about the budget?" We will talk about the budget in the next block, but if you can't. If you yourself can't keep the party talking about the budget, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. I have to respond to what's unfolding, and it is a certain amount of distress and drama in that caucus right now. Chantal.
But if you really want to talk about the budget, your leader doesn't forget to bring in the usual official opposition amendment about refusing to endorse the budget, which is exactly what happened yesterday. And I'm with Andrew on this. The more you exclude people, the less likely that you should be the leader leading that caucus in the next election. And I believe that over the past 3 weeks, we've seen bad week over comments on the RCMP and Justin Trudeau, and then bad week, which basically sends the message to Conservatives that no, Pierre Poilievre is not good at pivoting. And he is what he is. If that's what you want to lead you in the next election, he's only 20 points behind Mark Carney as best prime minister.
So, what do you think he's going to do, Althea? What will they do to try and stop the bleeding for now?
Well, some people around him have suggested he needs to build bridges. And that means taking out his MPs and kind of being the nice Pierre Poilievre and trying to win them with carrots and not trying to keep them with sticks. I think the bigger problem, frankly, is the one that Andrew has identified. The first response to Chris D'Entremont leaving were MPs saying that he was an idiot, that that the party was better off without him, and that there was some party emissaries went on TV and suggested that there is no room for red Tories in that party anymore. And there's frankly a lot of MPs who would see themselves more on the progressive conservative side of the party in that caucus. And do they feel like they have a home? Or do they feel like they can't do anything and that they have, one thing that we forget about often is how much power the leader has over the MPs. He can refuse to sign your nomination papers and therefore you're a candidate and end your career. So there's a lot of power that's yielded, and sometimes you're unwilling to walk and be a Liberal, but you just want changes within your own party. And now if you feel like the weight of the world is coming down on you, do you decide to walk away like Mr. Jeneroux do? Or do you decide, and we've talked about this before, but will more people just decide that they don't want to deal with this leadership and sit as independents on their own?
I mean, in our experience, I think we know that sometimes these things take on a momentum that become difficult to stop. Andrew?
I think the other problem is that the definition of red Tory is getting elasticized. I think Mike Wilson would be considered a red Tory to some of these people because he was focused on deficit reduction and free markets and free trade and tax reform, whereas there's a sort of a faction, I might say an ascendant faction within the party, where it's all about culture. It's all about fighting the culture wars, and anybody else is just a sort of an old-fashioned, out-of-touch, Reagan, Thatcher conservative. If they're going to be drawing lines even narrowly within crunchy, robustly conservative people, then it just gets narrower and narrower.
Last word to you, Chantal.
I'm looking at this from the other angle, and at this rate, with MPs going back to their ridings and families next week and away from the supervision of this leadership team that apparently puts knives on throats of people who are thinking about where they belong. I can see a day when Mark Carney has a majority government without going through an election.
Okay, we will leave it there. When we come back, though, we will take a look at how the Liberals are trying to entice the opposition to support the budget.
I know, in fact, that there's a lot in this budget that reflects the input from those parties.
So will the Liberals get the support they need? Can some of those local measures entice MPs to abstain? That's next. At issue tonight, opposition support for the budget. The Liberals need to find 2 votes, but so far are meeting resistance from other parties.
There's nothing for Quebecers in there. Absolutely nothing.
We have a lot of serious concerns about this budget as we look into it in more detail, a lot of questions.
Now is the time to reach out to those of us in opposition parties who could vote for the budget.
So will the Liberals get the support they need to pass the budget? Is there anything in there that could convince some of the parties to support it or abstain even? Let's bring everyone back. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea. Let's put aside the floor crosser and the person who's the Conservative MP who's quit and whatever else might happen in the next few weeks. Althea, I'll start with you.
Hours.
Are there, or hours. Yeah, we'll see whether this stands up. Are there things in the budget, targeted or not, that seem to try to appeal to parties and MPs from particular regions that could make them support or at least not stand in the way of the budget passing?
There are a lot of reasons for the oppositions to say that they will support this budget. There are a lot of reasons for the opposition to say that they will not support this budget. On the big ticket items, for example, that the Bloc Québécois outlined, their 6 demands, they're not reflected in this budget. But if you look, for example, at the Bloc Québécois MP for Gaspésie Magdalene Islands, there are 3 projects for his riding listed in this budget, including revamping the airport on the Magdalene Islands. There's a lot of reasons why Mr. Deschênes might want this budget to pass, even if he doesn't actually want to vote for it. And that's the pickle they all find themselves in. They actually want this budget to pass, but they don't want to vote for it. The NDP has been quite open about some of the projects that they like in the budget. Gord Johns on Vancouver Island has talked about this new fleet of fire bombers to fight forest fires. The Climate Corps, the youth program, that was a NDP suggestion that the Liberals put in the budget. There's a Filipino Community Center in Vancouver near Don Davies riding he's excited about. And they've basically said, we're going to go back to our ridings and see what our constituents want us to do. Do they want us to support this budget? Or, you know, the labor movement is saying, no, you absolutely cannot. You have to defend these 40,000 positions, and you have to vote against this. So there are a lot of goodies, but is it enough? I don't know.
Chantal, you went in there.
Not for a second do I imagine the MP for Gaspé, Magdalen Islands voting for this budget or abstaining on the budget because of a local project. That's just not happening. So
Even
forget
an
about
airport?
the bluff. They're going to bring all their members and they will vote against the budget.
Okay.
One down. I don't know how many Conservatives will be left when the budget vote comes, and that does matter. Because in the end, if you don't have enough members on the opposition sides to bring down the government, you can vote. But I expect all MPs who are still Conservative to show up and vote against the budget. The NDP is another kettle of fish, but the problem that the NDP has is a number of them are on the record for saying they don't want to abstain. And abstaining would be the easy way out, right? Because then you're not voting for it. And I'm not convinced that those 7 MPs can talk themselves into supporting the budget.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they're all going to go the same way either, frankly.
Exactly.
No. There's a lot of splits happening inside that little party right now. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the NDP is not going to vote for an election. That's the last thing they want. They're not even a caucus anymore, certainly not an official caucus. And as you're discussing, there's no cohesion there anymore. They're all trying to save their own skins. So in that context, a little sweetener in the form of this or that inducement in their riding probably is not going to be amiss to them. And, you know, you can use that to get people to be more likely to vote for you at the voter level, but it can also be used to induce MPs who are wavering on the edge of a decision to lean your way or at least to abstain. It's not particularly pretty, but that's the situation we're in.
I think it's more.
Althea, and then Chantal quickly though.
I think it's more about actually, if there is an election, to wave and say, you see this MP for Gaspé, he voted against all these great projects. I think it's actually more about that. And when you look at the list of projects, it's a pretty interesting list. I will say, because we haven't mentioned her, Elizabeth May is actually still in active negotiations because she wants to see the budget amendment to reduce this fossil fuel subsidy for the LNG sector. And so she didn't have anything in there, but she is one of the few who's actually trying to amend the thing.
30 seconds, Chantal.
So we're having this conversation based on the notion that the Liberals absolutely want to survive. Like a Paul Martin situation, they would actually want to rewrite the budget for Elizabeth May. I'm not convinced. I think they are staring down the opposition parties and basically saying, you want to defeat us? Well, you know, be our guest. I'm not saying they want an election.
No, I was going to say,
I think what they want is a majority, but I don't think they're going to bend over backwards to please anyone.
Yeah, a double dog dare does not mean you want the election, but I agree it's a double dog dare. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you. That was a good conversation on both. That's at issue on the National. We're going to keep talking. We're going to talk about the immigration policy also laid out in Budget 2025. You can catch that on YouTube or, of course, the podcast. Now back to Adrian in Toronto.
Okay, thanks, Rosie. Coming up, Heather Hiscox steps away from the Morning Live anchor desk.
It is impossible to encapsulate here what we've shared in our daily 4-hour conversations.
Marking 20 years leading the morning team next in our moment. Earlier today, Heather Hiscox said good morning to viewers across Canada for the very last time during her final day as anchor of Morning Live. So before she stepped away from the desk, she thanked the many people who have started their day with her for 20 years. Tonight, Heather's parting message is our moment.
It is impossible to encapsulate here what we've shared in our daily 4-hour conversations. The other day, I did the math. 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, minus vacation time, 20 years. It adds up to about 17,000 hours.
I feel like you're a girlfriend.
Oh. Earning and keeping your trust has been the greatest achievement of my career, and serving you, the privilege of my life. That leaves one final thank you. To you, as you watch at home, sorry, rats, I was doing so well. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you very, very much.
Heather Hiscox is the classiest soul on television, also the one who does more homework than anyone else. There's a reason she calls herself, and we lovingly call her Preparation H. It's also the case that when she says she has loved getting up at 2:30 in the morning every day for 20 years, that she means it. Although, Heather, we would all love for you to be able to sleep in tomorrow. Thank you, my friend. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.